All right, welcome back to another episode of Will's Garage. And as promised, here is a closer look at the new batteries that I have built for SolGato, my Solar Electric Sailing Catamaran. Now, this is my take on basically a truly waterproof marine grade lithium iron phosphate high quality battery for a boat application in the tropics. So really it started with a few major components, the first being a good waterproof case, second being these high quality grade A EVE 105 amp hour lithium iron phosphate cells, a 2 amp active balance JK BMS, some high quality tinned marine grade silicone jacketed wire, Anderson power pole, quick release connectors with their waterproof boots, and some Hyco connectors to get those wires in and out of the cases. So let's take a look at really why I had to build these. So the first limitation as far as batteries on SolGato is the size of these battery boxes or compartments. Now these used to be coolers from the factory, and I cut the bottom out of them and built these slings to mount these Group 27 marine lead acid battery boxes in them, because when I built SolGato some years ago, this was before lithium iron phosphate and lithium iron were all the rage. So originally this boat was built around lead acid, and I used it that way for a number of years. So the key to really building these new batteries was finding a high quality waterproof box or case that would fit inside my existing compartments. So I finally found some cases that were small but just big enough to fit 8 cells in series and the BMS and all the other stuff I needed to fit that would actually fit into these openings in SolGato. So I ended up buying these cases and actually brought them back from the mainland in my luggage with my clothing inside the cases, because the seller would not ship them to Hawaii. So once those were acquired, I started mocking up, like I usually do, all the components after gathering them up and sort of laying things out for a nice, clean, easy to service setup. So then I went ahead and ordered some cells. I was able to get these cells just before the tariffs, and so these are, like I said, an EVE grade A 105 amp hour cells. Now, by today's standards, these cells are pretty small energy density wise, but these are the biggest cells I can fit in this box that I can fit inside it, SolGato. So for my use, they provide plenty of range and runtime. So yes, they're a little more expensive than 300 amp hour cells today, but this is what I needed to use. So first thing I went ahead and did is I got a roll of fish paper with a 3M adhesive backing, and I went ahead and cut squares, rectangles of it, and applied that to either side of the cell to protect it from chafe and contact of the next cell once you stack them together and strap them together. So this is pretty important. People use all different types of stuff. I like this fish paper, works great. So fish paper on both sides of the cells, and I went ahead and did all that, and then set the cells aside and started working on the wiring. So on the wiring, I was using these Anderson power pole connectors. These are crimp-on end. I like to use no aux with my connectors. I like these easy hammer setters. And the reason I'm using these Anderson power pole connectors is because they can handle high amperage, and they will allow me to service everything. And they've got these great waterproof rubber boots that are commonly used on like forklifts and whatnot. So this will definitely keep the water and the moisture out of these connectors, which is important when you're dealing with DC current. And so then these cases have these little slots in the side, and I needed a way basically to hold the cells inside the box. And so I thought I'd go ahead and use this system that's clearly built in. I mocked up this little bracket here, and this bracket slips right into these molded in slots. I'm not sure what they're for, straps maybe perhaps, but when you close the lid ends up pressing against the bracket to keep it from moving. So I thought what I would do is use these slots to create sort of a seat belt, if you will, for these 8 cells that weigh, quite a bit, almost 45 pounds or so, and keep them in the box so that they're floating and not touching the sides and rubbing and chafing, which is pretty important. So I went ahead and used my little benchtop brake to make up some brackets, and then went ahead and got that all bent up and made one and copied it to make the other side. Kind of had this idea to create a removable lap belt, if you will. Trim those up and everything so that they fit really nice, and then I cut a square for the BMS to mount on. So the BMS is just floating in the box. It's not touching or transferring any heat. No potentials for shorting. Went ahead and put some fish paper on that, riveted the 3 pieces together, and now I basically have this bracket mount that actually serves 2 purposes. One, it holds the BMS and keeps it floating in the box for cooling purposes, but then 2, this also keeps the 8 cells well secured in one half of the box. So it's kind of a dual purpose, has a dual purpose function, and is utilizing something that's already built into the box. So it's a win-win. This is how it fits. Slides right in, so it's easy to service. If you want to deal with any of the cells, you can remove this. This also gives me a place to attach wires and do other things, which you'll see here in the next photo. For example, I went ahead and bolted one half of the power pole connector to it. So here it is, just floating in the box, and now you can see it with the power pole connector bolted to it, foam behind it. Next order of business was I wanted to take all my leads and mount them on the bus bars, so I drilled and tapped holes for those. This is what it looks like when they're nice and tidy and organized. Here's my initial charging of the cells. I went ahead and used the active balancing feature to bring them up on a top charge, but here I am just with a small power supply, putting a little power in, making sure my settings are right on the BMS, and making sure everything is hooked up correctly before I went to my bigger power supply here and started bringing the cells up to capacity. So went ahead and made myself a little pigtail for that machine so it plugs right in, and just basically at this point want to make sure that nothing is shorting out. Everything's nice and tight, and everything fits well. Here's the app showing you the deviation amongst the 8 cells. Very little deviation at this lower capacity, and this gives you an idea of, again, the finished product. Essentially, I set the batteries up so that as you open the case case lid actually sort of becomes like a little tray where you can, put tools and stuff in case you need to troubleshoot any of the cells or do anything to them. The pigtail to the Anderson connector there is removable. So you have the block of cells, you have the BMS with its battery, seat belt, and then you have this pigtail connector to get to the external connector. So these 3 components are removable so that you can actually service and deal with the cells. Unlike so many batteries out there where everything is glued in permanently and you got to deal with a bunch of junk, these these are very easy, and you can see these cases have a built-in foot so that you can actually tilt this larger half back and it stays upright, and really slick. I always like to utilize neat features that I find in different products and then build around those. And so you can see I have foam around all of the cells and the corners just to cushion it and keep the sharp edges out of the rounded corners of this case. But once you close the lid, that seat belt actually gets locked into place, and it really cinches everything together, and there's no movement whatsoever. Anyways, thanks for watching, and soon I'll go ahead and install them in SolGato, and we'll be enjoying twice the range and double the backup as far as reliability goes by having two individual 24-volt batteries instead of two 12-volt batteries in series like I had before. Thanks for watching. Aloha.